Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Randy Osaran, and I am pleased to present Trinidad and Tobago's facilitative sharing of views on behalf of the Government of Trinidad and Tobago. Today's presentation will take the following format. Firstly, we will speak to Trinidad and Tobago's national context, where we will highlight our current institutional arrangements during the BUR reporting process, as well as our envisaged institutional arrangements for our next reporting cycle. This is based on Trinidad and Tobago's National Climate Mitigation MRV system. Next, we will cover our greenhouse gas inventory, followed by mitigation actions and effects, where we will identify potential improvements for our next reporting cycle. Lastly, we will cover our support needed and received, and then highlight Trinidad and Tobago's government's current plans for our ETF implementation and transition. National context. Trinidad and Tobago is a small island developing state of approximately 1.4 million people that covers an area of 5,128 square kilometers. We have a tropical climate that is defined by a dry and wet season. Overall, Trinidad and Tobago's economy is based on its industrial activities, with the oil and gas sector accounting for approximately 40% of our GDP. Other major contributors are manufacturing, cement production, downstream energy industries such as LNG, ammonia, and methanol. With regards to our institutional arrangements during the BUR reporting process, the government chose to work with consultants for the greenhouse gas inventory section, the mitigation action and effects section, as well as our MRV section. And overall, after these chapters were written, they were sent to our coordinating entity, the Ministry of Planning and Development, for overall compilation and then submission. But during the BUR reporting process, Trinidad and Tobago was able to design their National Climate Mitigation MRV system, and that is what we see on the slide today. Here we can see the different MRV system components that have been designed, our knowledge management system that is held by our Environmental Management Authority, as well as our communication channels and templates, where we see that we have mapped in our procedures, methodologies, and institutional frameworks. Our MRV system and its institutional arrangements were intended to facilitate the collection, analysis, and transparent reporting of accurate and reliable information on data, on greenhouse gas emissions, our efforts to mitigate them, and the resources that we've devoted to enabling these efforts. Our knowledge management system that is identified on the slide is our central repository for this information and data, and includes methodologies, procedures, as well as our institutional frameworks. Where Trinidad and Tobago's system is different is our coordinating entity compiles our reports, whereas our stakeholders not only collect data, but also are responsible for the calculation of their greenhouse gas emissions. Greenhouse gas inventory. Trinidad and Tobago's greenhouse gas inventory covers a time series of from 2006 to 2018. Here on these slides, we see a snapshot, right, of what our emissions look like with regard to our three reported gases, carbon dioxide, methane, and N2O. And of course, we've highlighted what our emission breakdown looks like with regards to our reporting sectors. In 2018, Trinidad and Tobago emitted approximately 42,000 gigagrams of CO2 equivalent. However, this was dominated by our energy and IPPU sector, which accounted for approximately 41,000 gigagrams of CO2 equivalent, including our AFLU sector, which was a sink. Overall, during the reporting process, Trinidad and Tobago was able to improve by moving from the 1996 IPCC guidelines to the 2006 IPCC guidelines. We were able to enhance our technical capacity through training, looking ahead to Trinidad and Tobago's MRV system as well as reporting process. But we understand that we still have work to do with regards to our future reporting cycles, and here we've identified some greenhouse gas inventory improvements. We understand, based on our current envisaged MRV system that is currently being implemented, that we need to train all our key stakeholders, including our coordinating entity, the Ministry of Planning and Development, the Environmental Management Authority, which holds our knowledge management system, and sectoral experts in greenhouse gas inventorying. All of this using the IPCC 2006 guidelines and looking ahead to the modalities, procedures, and guidelines under the ETF. So we're going to continue to train all our stakeholders with regards as well to our related activity data sets to continue to improve. During the reporting process, data was lost from our first and second national communication, and we were forced to start the process over and continually look ahead with regards to what we can collect with regards to activity data and what emission factors we can choose. We have actively been introducing greenhouse gas inventory curriculum into relevant universities, and we hope that our stakeholders will pursue this to assist us in the integration of the information into our knowledge management system for future inventory support. Overall, we have the understanding that this reporting needs to be mandatory, and at present, we have amended the appropriate legislation to transition from voluntary reporting to mandatory reporting with respect to activity data. This is currently waiting on approval at the cabinet level. Mitigation actions and effects. Trinidad and Tobago's NDC aims to achieve a reduction objective in overall emissions from 3 sectors by 15% by 2030 from our business as usual scenario. We've also identified unconditionally to reduce our public transportation emissions by 30% or 1,700,000 tons of CO2 equivalent compared to our 2013 levels by December 31st, 2030. During the reporting process, the consultants were able to map our business as usual scenarios based on the information garnered from our greenhouse gas inventory report, and then using both a conservative scenario and optimistic scenario, we were able to map potential reductions overall to achieve our NDC. Highlighted in the slide are mitigation actions that are planned and are currently being implemented by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. The power generation, industry, and transport sectors account for the vast majority of these actions. When Trinidad and Tobago improves its NDC with regards to its overall ambition, we will be moving to economy-wide and including the waste and AFLU sectors. Looking ahead with regards to the support both needed and received, within the slide you'll see that we've identified what was in the BUR with regards to what the government considers priority actions and that support that we need to be able to implement these actions. Just to highlight a few, the institutional capacity for sustainable collection of GHG data in relevant sectoral institutions, a fully functional MRV ETF unit, and we all understand how important that is, as well as the infrastructure requirements for sustainable transport. During the BUR reporting process, Trinidad and Tobago undertook several capacity building initiatives and received lots of support. Here we have highlighted where we developed our National Climate Mitigation MRV system, our pilot project to test the efficacy of the system, our greenhouse gas certification program, as well as our Climate Promise initiative, where we were able to do a workshop on data collection and management in the AFLU and waste sectors, which we needed with regards to improving our overall information in these sectors to revise our NDC. Lastly, with regards to our overall plans, with regards to the ETF transition and implementation, Trinidad and Tobago already has begun and has formalized arrangements for the implementation of the ETF that is now embedded within the National Institutional Framework. Preparation for developing Trinidad and Tobago's first BTR has started, and it is the government's intention to submit our first BTR on time. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to your questions.